struggle with addictions too. I totally get it. I'm addicted to pleasure. I don't, you can call me tone deaf or insensitive. Um, Unless you're a sexual assault victim that's gone hypersexual after childhood abuse, I actually don't want to hear that from you. You can call me tone deaf. I actually don't want to hear that. You know what I mean? And so I'm like trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. And he's like, yeah, sexual frustration drives people to do crazy things, drives men to do crazy things. You don't know what it's like to have all this testosterone, school pewings. I'm sitting there, and he's like, I feel like I've made so much money. And I get invited to these parties I shouldn't even be at. And if he's watching, I'm sorry, but you icked me. I'm not saying your name or nothing, but I do have to talk about it. It icked me. It upset me, okay? And I say that because he was in my live earlier. We got on the topic of partnership and my ex-boyfriend, okay? Because he said that women liked edgy men, bad boys, mysterious men. He has my phone number. It's a little bit awkward. I don't know if you know this, but when people argue with me, they like to leak my phone number. I've had this experience unanimously on the internet, and I'm trying to avoid it. I've changed phone numbers before because people who I know in real life have decided we're arguing. Here, hey, TikTok, here's your fucking phone number. And there are a lot of people looking for that. You might think I'm nobody, but there are snark threads that say otherwise. So yeah, I'm trying to cordially handle this conversation, especially because he's claiming he has money and connections, and I'm a little bit nervous and intimidated, but nonetheless, I'm argumentative, because I figured that he'd be more receptive to that than a hang-up, because that's how dudes are. We're talking about my ex-boyfriend, though. The one that would record me sleeping naked, changing for 30 minutes at a time and save it all on his phone and possibly send it to other people. I don't know what he did with it. I'm not making accusations, but if you're doing that without my consent, I don't know what else you're doing with it. And then I find out he's doing that to other women in public. I can forgive you for what you do to me. I can't forgive you for what you do to other people. And that's revenge porn. And that's illegal and just scary and horrifying. And he was normal for 2 years until that point. And, every time I saw him, I caught something else, and I would see him like every other month. So first I caught, him watching adult content. That broke me, because that was a boundary. And then I caught him taking these pictures and videos of me, and he promised he wouldn't do it again. And then I caught him doing it again, and then I found pictures of women that he had taken that weren't me. We broke up, and he says, well, I hate to ask, well, maybe I don't, but, well, was he sexually satisfied? I said, pardon me, why does it matter if he was satisfied or not? You want to let me know why it matters if he was sexually satisfied or not? If he was dissatisfied, he could find somebody else to satisfy him and not create revenge porn of a non-consenting person in their own home. And he's like, well, it actually does matter. You don't know what testosterone does to a person. I said, you don't know what estrogen does to a person. And I do know what testosterone does to a person. I have testosterone in my body, believe it or not. When I'm on my period, I get an influx of testosterone. So that's kind of what that is. And he's like, no, but you don't get it. It leads you to do crazy things. You don't get what it's like to be a man. And I'm like, okay, estrogen's also crazy. Birth control is essentially just estrogen, and it causes a shit ton of health problems. So I don't want to argue it with you. And he's like, you're right, I don't know, but you don't know what it's like to be a man. You don't know what testosterone makes you do. I like how you said males and females crazy, and we're talking about somebody pretending to be a modeling agent to, like, say crazy shit in my phone. And he's talking about, how are you gonna judge me? Are you gonna judge me if I say this? I have 2 girlfriends and a bunch of F buddies. And I said, do these girls know about each other? And he said, yes, they do, of course. They know that we're not exclusive. And I said, okay, because I was about to say I'll fucking find them. And he's like, that's not cool. You'd rat me out if I was cheating? And I said, yes. And he's like, friends don't do that. And I'm like, when did he hear that we were friends, first of all? Second of all, yes, they do. I have really good people in my life, and if I was fucking up, they would tell me I was fucking up, and they would hold me accountable. I have normal people in my life that wouldn't just be like, oh, fine, cheat on the boyfriend you've been with for a year and a half and that you live with and you're committed to and is a great person and emotionally stable. No. I said the people in my life would hold me accountable because they're normal. And he's like, well, it's not even that serious. And I'm like, I'm starting to think they don't know about each other. He said a lot of crazy shit, justifying a bunch of incel stuff. He said that he didn't feel like it was right to rag on PDFs because he doesn't know what's going on in their lives and it's not his place. What? I said, well, I like to. And he goes, well, what if they're like just super autistic? I said, I'm autistic. We don't do those. I said, why are you ascribing that to my community? He goes, I'm on the spectrum. I'm on the spectrum. I said, what spectrum? You have ASD? He said, no, I have Asperger's. And I'm like, we don't call it that. That was a Nazi's last name. We call that autism. So, okay, you're diagnosed autistic. Cool, cool. Stop doing that. I am a fire sign. Stop doing that. And I'm just like, every 5 minutes it goes back to, you don't know what testosterone does. And it's constantly, all these girls I talk to, they're like half decent looking, but you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I saw you on that Zoom call. I'm like, she don't need my help. You're like Megan Fox. I'm like, yeah, I've heard that 8 times. I said, the girls are half decent. You mean the ones that you're approaching and telling them they could be models? The ones you're DMing? The ones you're planting seeds in? I said, how many girls from these Zoom calls have you talked to today? He said, well, maybe 2. I said, okay, help me understand this. Oh, and then he was like, I have a crush on like all my female friends. Like men can't help that. Men can't help that. That's the other name he said. He's like, men can't help that. Men can't help that. And I'm like, the men in my life don't have crushes on me. They're normal. And he's like, well, no, they all do. They all do. And I'm like, okay, well, no, they don't. And he's like, how can you be so confident? I'm like, I know for a fact my little brother doesn't do that to the women in his life. And he's like, well, not to you, that's your brother. That's your... I'm like, not to me, no. But to the woman in his life. And he's like, how do you know your brother's a gentleman? I said, because he watched me experience misogyny for years. He's seen me get doxxed. He's seen me cry. My little brother saw deepfakes of me yesterday. He sees how y'all act. He would never act like you because I'm his big sister. It's that simple. He's like, well, maybe he's just a gentleman then. And I'm like, what is wrong? What is wrong with you? Fuck you. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, I can't even begin to understand. And then he's like, you make a great mother. Like, maybe you're just morally better than all of us. You'd make a wonderful mother. And I'm just like, what are you trying to, like, I don't, just over and over, you're so beautiful. And I'm sitting there on the phone, silent. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm texting my boyfriend that you're kind of weird. Like, dude. And then he was like, all right, well, it's getting late. I said, okay, bye. And he continued talking and I hung up. Because you need to understand. He also was talking about how he's like lonely and he doesn't have any friends. He's like, I feel like I've made, a really good amount of money, but I feel like I don't have any friends. And I'm like, well, are you doing... He's like, I'm doing these casting calls to make friends. And I'm like, oh, really? Are you referring men to high fashion agencies too? Really? Are you also DMing men? He goes, do you want me to be honest? I said, no, I know you're not. I know you're not DMing men, even though you claim to have these connections. I know you're not messaging men. Maybe you don't have these connections at all. I said, you want me to be real with you? That group chat you put me in, I saw that every other chick in it left. And nobody responded to you.